Welcome back to Block TV. Now this is a brand new segment called The Launch, powered by Lunar, where every week we will get the latest community-driven cryptocurrency insights. Now joining us today live from Lunar headquarters is founder and chief product officer, John Farjo. Thanks for joining us, John.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about Lunar and what it's all about.
Absolutely. Well, we are crypto investors first. We started getting back into Bitcoin around 2013. And that led to many other different things such as Ethereum and Litecoin. And some of those things are really positive. Some of those things are also really negative. The DAO for Ethereum, things like that. And so what we realized was how we're finding these things is through social. And at first it was more of a discovery kind of thing. We wanted to know, can we capture more social information off of these channels, Twitter, Reddit, etc., news sources, Google searches, all of this stuff. And so started out as really a pet project for our own use to try and understand the market a little bit better. And fast forward to today, we've collected about 150 million plus posts. They're all across Twitter, Reddit. We organize every single post that comes in by sentiment. We give it a score. We look at social engagement. We get very deep with all of the metrics we collect, and we do that across over 2,000 separate projects.
Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, you say you're collecting all this data. It must be tons of data. Now I'm assuming that you've developed your own in-house algorithm to kind of sort all that data for you?
Yeah, really great question. So one of the things that's tough with all this is, a lot of projects haven't really thought about SEO and things like that. There are many projects that are named after common items. And so you can't just, scrape a ticker and expect that you're going to collect a lot of really good information. Other than, let's say, for example, there's a stock with the same ticker. You want to exclude everything that's related to that stock. Let's say that there's something that's picking up a bunch of just, strange terminology that does not relate. And so some of that is kind of hand cleaning. And the other part of it is training, the machine learning that we use to classify each of the projects. So it's a very hands-on process, and it's really a never-ending process where you're just constantly trying to collect more and more accurate information. I keep saying that it's actually more important what you don't include versus what you do, because there's a lot of things that are just simply unrelated. And so we pride ourselves on accuracy. And I go further. It helps us to collect spam. When we first started, one of the things that we wanted to do was weed out the junk, because you're going on these social feeds and there's bots all over the place. There's just spam. Anything with 85 tickers in a tweet is probably not legitimate. There's probably a lot of just different things going on there that are probably not even from a human. And so we've done a lot of work to try and collect spam. And we actually even collect it as an indicator versus excluding it. So we actually even show spam as part of our collection.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing, in today's world, the biggest problem isn't a lack of data, but it's often too much. It's too much data. And as you mentioned before, you guys kind of collect this and you bring it down to a score. Now, I was checking out your platform before and I saw this thing, the Galaxy score. Was that what you were referring to?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we do. So we have a Galaxy score metric that really looks not at the entire market, but at that individual coin. So the Galaxy score it indicates the health of a particular project at any given time. So if it's 100 out of 100, it's extremely bullish. It's also extremely rare that happens. It has happened a few times. But if something is 60 to 80, it's in the bullish range. And what we do is it's a combined score. We look at price activity. So how is it performing relative to itself, the price? We look at the sentiment. On average, is it bullish versus bearish? And we score that on a 1 to 5 basis. And then we look at social impact. So what is the impact that is occurring? What is the engagement? What is the depth of activity, not just volume? And we look at the correlation of all of these things relative to those other factors. And we bring it all together and we score it. And there's some really interesting movements that occur as a result of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, listen, we keep on speaking about this platform. Let's take a deep dive. Show us this platform at work. Let's start off with, I understand you guys do a coin of the day. You want to show us what the coin of the day kind of looks like, and how do you guys decide on that?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen here for you. So our coin of the day happens to be Tezos. And so when we look at Tezos, I'll just point out the Galaxy score that I just mentioned. And so this Galaxy score, we have a Galaxy score and we have an alt rank. The Galaxy score, these both update every 30 seconds if there's new data that's coming in. You'll actually see this move in real time if you keep this up long enough. And so that was the Galaxy score I was mentioning. On the right, you actually see something that, so where Galaxy score is indicating the health of an individual coin, alt rank is looking at the entire market. And what alt rank does is there's really 4 factors there. So it's looking at the volume, the trading volume. It's looking at price change, but it's not just looking at the price change of an altcoin. It's looking at price change relative to Bitcoin. Because if your strategy is to earn more Bitcoin, you want to be trading alts that are outperforming Bitcoin. And so you get some really interesting metrics with this. We look at the social score and the social volume. So it's a broad-based rank. If you were to look at some of our other metrics on social engagement, you can see that on a 1-week basis, this is the different social engagement that's going on. If I were to look at sentiment's relatively stable on Tezos. So there's a lot of different interesting metrics here that we collect. I can also see these alt ranks over time, which the lower the better on this one. So you can see that over time it's actually doing quite well over the past 1 week. If I were to look at, let's say just Twitter, spam volume, because I mentioned spam's not up, so that's kind of good. And then below you can see all the different collected metrics and the different news activity. One thing that we also collect is a lot of shared links. So we pride ourselves in going very deep with what we collect. When you look at every single piece of social content that we collect, if it contains a link, we go through that as well and we collect that and we also organize that. So what that means is we end up having billions of pieces of content that gets organized by every different coin. One thing that I'm going to point out, I'm going to swap to Bitcoin. And we posted this a couple days ago on our Twitter. One of the interesting things you might remember, we had this move right here that popped us up about 300 or 400 points or so. On November 4th, on Monday. 2 hours ahead of that, there was a huge spike in social engagement. And so there's some interesting moves that we're seeing lately on that one, where you get these really big spikes in social engagement. And what that is it's likes, it's retweets, it's comments, it's real activity, it's shares, it's upvotes on Reddit, it's all sorts of different social activity. So we tend to keep seeing lately these massive spikes before price moves, as opposed to just, hey, news came out and social volume comes up. If we were to look at, where am I here? I was going to point out Stellar for you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I was quite interested in Stellar, especially with the Star Foundation's burning of half the supply of XLM.
Yes, that was a very big announcement. See, on this, we see that news came out, and we see that social volume kind of spiked as it came out, and then it tapered off. But we also do see that there were some spikes a little bit in advance. And so what we kind of look at here is, are there indicators that should make me pay attention? And from a product perspective, we're building things that are going to be personalized and coming to you. So if you're concerned about Stellar or coins that are moving rapidly, like something's happening, bring it to my attention, versus let me go to every single coin and uncover those movements. So we're doing a lot of work around that. One thing to point out too is, there's been, with a lot of the Chinese projects, the Chinese coins, like looking at Neo, just massive moves in some of the engagement metrics. If I picked up like Tron, the social volume is actually increasing, and like VeChain, really the sentiment is like off the charts. That's at a 3-month high right there. So a lot of really interesting activity, and not just that, like the price is also staying up as it's doing this. And VeChain's performed so well that you can see on the alt rank, it might only be up 7.48%, but when we look at a broad-based metric, it's number one in the market for this 30-second period, this interval. And so you're seeing a lot of really interesting activity in these kinds of projects.
Mm-hmm. And I see that you guys, you guys collect a wide range of data, and you guys have the current. Is there any tools for future predictions, or you guys are taking these numbers and you could kind of guess what's going to happen next, or that's up to the trader to kind of absorb the data that you guys are giving them?
Yeah. So great question. So lunarcrush.com is free to sign up, so anyone can sign up, and so that's really to provide visibility and insights. We feel like the community needs more confidence and more information. And we also believe that social has a huge element in someone's trading strategy. And so when we look at this, what we try to do is provide data to exchanges and funds that have their own trading strategies. We don't want to define those for them because a lot of times what happens is a fund will have a number of different data points that they're looking at.
Yeah. John, if you could switch the camera back to you for a moment. Yeah, just, there we go. Also very cool. Yeah, it's just a personal thing. I like being on camera as well. But yeah, as you were saying.
Yeah, so lunarcrush.com is free for investors to sign up, and we believe that it's a great tool for the market, and it's a huge piece of an investment strategy to look at. Is there community adoption? What is the sentiment going on? There are projects that we see that have continually decreasing social activity, and it seems to map quite closely and correlate very heavily to price. And overall, if you're running a crypto project and you have no community, that's an issue. It's an issue. It's definitely something that needs to be dealt with. Interesting. I was listening to a podcast with Nick Szabo yesterday, and he was talking about tweeting more because the community drives the perception of a project. So I thought that was actually really timely and interesting. But it's definitely a piece of an investment strategy. But what we also do is we sell an API to exchanges and funds, and we let them layer in our data on top of what they're already doing. We don't want to make predictions for them. We don't want to really define what their trading strategy is, because we're a piece of many other elements that they're looking at. Right. And I'll also add that we have a charting library integration that we're working with TradingView and ChartIQ on. And we also have a widget library, and those are more for professional tools.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so we've seen the platform. It really looks incredible. Tell me a little bit about the team behind the platform.
Sure. So there's four of us that got this started. We launched in partnership with our good friends Gorin Home Ventures at the Crypto Invest Summit in April. And it was, I think, April 5th, if I recall. We launched the platform April 1st. And since then, it's myself and Joe Visani, our CEO. We just got through Techstars. And so we spent that time kind of evolving the product, defining our strategy, and really figuring out our product roadmap. And then there's Isaac and Dan, who are our engineering and design team. And so the four of us have built this from scratch, ground up. And so I guess we've been live for about 6-7 months, something like that.
Well, and what has the feedback been? You guys, it's funny because you guys kind of have your finger on the pulse of the community. Have you seen overall, what has been the kind of response from the community to you guys so far?
Well, your point earlier about we collect so much data. And so I think for us to kind of pride ourselves in just being a data company, I think would fail to resonate with being a broad-based tool that's adopted by a lot of consumers. What we're after is becoming a UX-driven entity. We want to provide user experiences that provide value to investors, exchanges, funds, and otherwise. And so I think the feedback that we've had is that, wow, that's amazing. But we've also simultaneously had the experience that the feedback has been the experience is really great. And so we're priding ourselves in that. And like last night, it's interesting timing here because we had our biggest traffic day yesterday, our most signups yesterday. And the feedback, every single comment that we got on social was positive. So we're super thrilled that the community is finding value in our data.
Mm-hmm. Well, if I could for a moment give you some feedback, I was playing with the platform this morning. And what I look for in these type of things is I want someone who grabs the most amount of data and delivers it in the most concise and relevant way. And I feel that so far with with your product. It was actually quite easy to I like the rankings, I like the graphs. It was quite easy to understand. I didn't feel overloaded, which I often do with a lot of these data companies. So John, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, we'll check back again next week. We hope to do this again and again, kind of putting our finger on the pulse in the cryptocurrency community. Thank you so much for joining us. That was The Launch. Stay informed, stay current, and stay tuned at BLOCKTV.com.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.